Okay, so yesterday what we did is we got this contact dialog to look like this when we run it. All right, and we also created the contact class so that the contact is defined to keep track of a first name, last name, phone, and email. Right? I think we kind of talked about, like, if you were creating contact on your phone, you could add multiple phone numbers, you could add an address, company, blah, blah, blah. All right, we're going to try to keep it a little bit simpler for us, but basically we have the same ideas as what you would do if you were on your phone. Okay, so that dialog again looks like this. Let's just kind of talk about what we want this dialog to do. First of all, when we click submit, what are we trying to do when we click submit? Create a contact, right? So we can expect that, like, if we had some information in here, right, and we had something like that, that when we submit, we would be pulling this information or getting this information out of the text fields, right, and creating a contact object. And the way that we would create that contact object is by using this constructor, sending Ed to the first name, Grimley to the last name, etc., and then assigning first name through email for that object. Okay, does that idea make sense? So then what should clear do? Clear out the text fields. Okay, so when we change the text of a text field, remember that we're actually that in the programming language we say set instead of change. All right, and then what should the cancel button do? This is kind of a weird idea, maybe, or it seems like almost too simple. So what should the cancel button do?
Cancel.
It should cancel. Okay, so what do we expect to happen to this when we click the cancel button?
Go away.
We just want it to go away. All right, so what do we expect to happen to this when we hit the submit button?
It'll take us to a different window.
You might want it to clear out the text fields, and then you want all that information in another box.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to go away then as well, right? Like, whether we click cancel or submit, it's going to go away. When we click submit, we're expecting that we're getting a new contact with all this information that's filled in. When we click cancel, we're expecting what about the contact? Like, what should the value of the contact be when I click cancel? No. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a perfect answer. Okay, so you kind of want to have those ideas in the back of your head as we go through the steps today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to add function to the buttons for this interface, right? And then we're going to build the basically like contact list interface. And then tomorrow we'll make it so that we can actually create a contact and add it to the list. All right, so let's get started with that right now. All right, so back over at contact dialog. Okay, at the top of contact dialog where we said extends JDialog, now we want to add some function. Okay, so listen, I don't think right now that you should be at the point where you can just, like, by memory do the 4 steps that allow us to have some function. Okay, but what I do think you should be able to do is, like, look on our website or look at a previous example and say, oh, okay, yeah, these were the things that we had to do. Okay, so the first step is that we need to go right here and put in implements action listener. All right, so after we do implements action listener, what we're doing here is we're saying this contact dialog is going to be able to listen to actions. All right, and any class that can listen to actions has to have an action perform method. And so when we type that in, we get this contact dialog underlined, and it's basically telling us you have to implement this action performed method. You guys following that? So that's step 2, is to implement the action performed method. I'm going to just scroll down here to the end of the constructor. So that's my end of the constructor, and I'm going to type in public void action performed. Okay, that has a parameter of an action event that I'm going to call event. Okay, and I did this in my last hour class as well, so that's why mine is already imported. Okay, you guys probably have to import action event. So this is step 2, all right, is putting in that action perform method. So we said step 1 is say that you're an action listener. Step 2 is writing your action perform method. Step 3 is getting the buttons to know that you're listening to them, okay, or making a connection between this dialog and the buttons. How do I do that? Yeah, good. Okay, so like I said, I don't expect you to have that memorized. Okay, but what I do expect is that you could say like, oh, okay, well I know I've done that before. Where did we do that before? Oh, Haiku frame had buttons that did something, right? So we implemented action listener. Bless you. We wrote an action perform method, and then we added action listener to them. Okay, bless you again. So the place that I usually put that is after I've added my buttons to some panel or to my interface, I then take those same buttons and add action listener to them. Okay? Now I've talked about this before, but just kind of watch me type this for a second, okay? Some of you like this, I'm trying to make this faster for you, okay? So just watch me. All right? So if I go clear, bless you again. If I go clear B dot add, as soon as I put in that capital A, it it's all right. It's limiting the things that I could possibly have done here, okay? And I can arrow if I wanted for some reason to put add ancestor listener or add action listener, I can kind of arrow between those, and if I just hit enter or return, it's going to fill in the rest for me. So that'll speed things up for a lot of you. And then it highlights the argument that you have to put in, which is this. Okay? So same thing for submit B dot add action listener. Or sometimes it doesn't do it what you want it to do, and then you just got to type it in. We want those 3 lines. Bless you. Anybody need time? Okay, so that's step 3. Now we have those buttons being listened to. Step 4 is to go back into the action perform method and set it up so that you're like responding to each individual button. Okay, so we want to say if event.getSource, and again, once I get to get capital S, it figures out that I want source. If I hit enter, it just fills in the rest for me, and I want to put in which button basically got pressed. Okay, so I'm going to do if event.getSource equals cancel button, else if
Right, it's a cancel everything.
yeah, we just want it to go away, right? So that's a command that you guys don't know yet, so I'm just going to give it to you here. So we're going to go this dot and the command is dispose. Okay. So dispose basically just makes the dialog go away. All right. So that's what we want to have happen when we cancel. The clear button, what do we want to have happen there?
It's to clear.
Clear what?
The text field.
Clear the text fields, right? So we have to refer to each text field and then change its text. How do we change the text? What function are we using there? We don't use change, we use set. Okay, so we're going to go first name tf, that's the text field, dot set text. Okay, and this is what I was talking about before, right? If I'm a slower typer, I'm going to wait till I see set text up there, hit return, and what do I want to change the text to? I want it to be empty. Okay, so that's an empty string right there. Okay, so I do not have a space between those two quotes. There's no space, right? Again, if I'm a slower typer, copy that, paste it in, because I have 4 text fields. Last name, this is going to be last name, this is going to be phone, this is going to be email. Okay, last name, phone, and email. All right. So as I've been programming, I've become a better typer, but I used to be a really bad typer, so I was copying and pasting stuff all the time. Okay, just speeds your life up a little bit. You guys good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the submit button, what do I want to have happen in the submit button?
No contact.
So the contact thing is already up, right? Now hopefully I've filled something in and I've clicked submit, right? What do I want to have happen now? I want to get the stuff out of the text fields, right? Get the first name, get the last name, all the way down to phone number, right? And then I want to, like, what's the purpose of the contact dialog?
To display the information.
But why have we made a contact dialog? Like real low level thinking here. Like the purpose of a contact dialog is to make a contact, right? So I want to get the information out of the text fields, make a contact using that information, right? And then what I want is for that dialog to go away because it's served its purpose. I've made a contact. Okay? So listen, because there's kind of like 3 things that I want to get done, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that really maybe should go somewhere else. Okay? And so we're going to make a method here. We're going to say create the contact is what should happen when we submit. And I'm putting in parentheses here to say that this is a method that I'm going to write next. Okay? This bracket right here is the end of action performed. And after the end of action performed, I'm going to write the method public void create the contact. So anytime that you have something that's like a little more in depth, like disposing this, like cancel, one thing, not a big deal. Clear, maybe we could put this in another method, but it's pretty simple. We're just doing the same thing 4 times. There's a couple more steps for creating the contact, so let's make a method so that we can kind of group those things together. All right. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to get the info from the text fields. All right. So I'm going to create a string for first name. Okay, and I want to get the text out of there. So as soon as I put in get t, I can hit return and get the text. And then I'm going to copy and paste this. Okay, because I want to do basically the same thing for the last name, the phone number, and the email. So I'm going to change this to last name. Make sure that you also change which text field you're getting stuff out of. So, oops. So this is going to be the phone. Make sure that you change this to phone text field. Email. Email text field. All right. After I have all the info from those text fields, okay, and I have them in variables, first name through email, then I'm going to create the contact. Now, if you weren't really paying too close attention to what we did yesterday, let's scroll up and make sure that you guys have what I have up here, okay? Inside of contact dialog, you should have, after you created the components, you should have a contact declared called the contact. Okay? That's the contact that we're going to create in this dialog. So down here then, we're going to create the contact. So we're going to say the contact equals a new contact, and send it first name, last name, phone, and email. And the last thing that we're going to do when we create a contact is we're going to make the dialog go away. And again, we just do this dot dispose.